Quality writing makes your schoolwork better. Meet Grammarly, the digital writing assistant that helps students create effective writing that delivers results.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I hope you can hear me. This is just a short live. I'm not going to be on for very long, so I'm not feeling good, and I'm a hot mess because I fell asleep. And that's why I had to push everything back a half an hour, so I'm sorry about that, too. I just kind of wanted to do something today to give me something to put on the About Me featured content section, because the one I have up there doesn't really say that much about me. Hi, Save Robbie. So I guess I'll just start with a little bit about me, and then I'll read what I've got ready, and then just open up the panel and do questions and stuff. So I am, of course, as everybody knows, in recovery. A year clean, so hooray for that. Not ashamed of it, even though people like to kind of use that as a source of shame. But I'm proud to admit it. I've gotten past hiding it from people, and if anybody wants to give me a hard time about that part of my past, I guess that just kind of makes them a dick. I work in call center work. I have for about 20 years, and it sucks, but the money's better. I actually have 3 two-year degrees in the medical field. One is for medical coding, one is for HIT, which is health information technology, which kind of goes along with that, and the other is for medical assistant. And believe it or not, I am overeducated and underemployable. So basically, most of the better jobs in my field I'm underqualified for, and a lot of the other ones I'm overqualified for. All right, let me say that again. Most of the jobs in my field I'm underqualified for, and a lot of the other jobs I am overqualified for. Yeah, I think I said that right this time. Anyway, actually, call center work pays more than medical assisting does in my area, a lot more. So my education is basically no help to me at all. It's just a pile of student loans. I have been in a relationship for 28 years. It started when I was 17. I'm 45 now. And although he never shows up on my YouTube streams, he probably never will. He's one of those guys who does not like to be on social media at all, and he'd rather pretend like it all doesn't exist. Call center work is not for everybody. It takes a whole lot of patience and a really thick skin. And just to give you an idea, I'm going to read a little bit, a story from my work that's actually kind of humorous. I worked for 7 years for Amazon.com, and I guess it's okay to say that online. It's not like I'm famous or anything. Anyway, Amazon is famous for its superior customer service. Because it does take such pride in its reputation, the company bends over backwards to satisfy its customers. The decision of whether to issue refunds, change prices, give out promotional funds is generally left to the employee's discretion, up to a certain amount of money. We got lots of customers who would call and scream because it was an almost surefire way to get something for free. Amazon's basically their customer service policy is to throw money at people until they're happy and give them whatever they ask for, pretty much. They would actually say to us, like, why do you care? It's not your money. And it actually drive us crazy when it was somebody that we knew was just trying to con for free stuff. But our supervisors would generally override us and give it to them anyway, and escalations to supervisors counted against us. So basically, you just pretty much had to give in. The job is to eat the customer's shit with a smile thank them for it, and then invite them to come back and feed us more shit sometime in the near future. One of the most popular scams involved shipping. The company provides free shipping. If you're familiar with Amazon, which I'm sure most people are, they provide free shipping if you order a certain dollar amount of merchandise, but you have to select that method of shipping at checkout. And it actually says free shipping in big letters. So it's really hard to make a mistake on that unless you're using the one click, because I think you have to set the type of shipping in your settings. Anyway, free shipping takes a whole lot longer to arrive than any of the other options. Generally about 5 business days longer is the extra amount of time. So what many people do is select 1 or 2 day shipping, then wait until their order ships out. Then they call in screaming that I selected the free option, your company changed it, or something similar to that. So of course it was too late to change the shipping by the time it ships out already, because the order's already on its way. So rather than have them return it and reorder it, we just issue the refund, and voila, free expedited shipping for the asshole customer. And sometimes they'd even carry on so much that they'd end up with a free promotional code for $5 or $10 off their next order. Now, if a customer called and acted human about it and nicely asked for a break, I would usually do it as long as they didn't have a long history of accidentally selecting the wrong shipping. However, if they abused me, I'm stubborn, so I hold my ground. More often than not, that would cause the person to yell and scream and ask for the manager and generally show their butt. So inevitably, the person who takes over the call would betray us and give the bitch customer their refund. So it gets to, get disheartening from time to time, until one glorious day. Since the company's primary claim to fame is books, there are certain product releases that we really have to gear up for. One particular series, well, I had a different name for it, but it's Harry Potter anyway. It's over with, so I doubt it matters. And anytime a new Harry Potter book was released, it was always chaos. They would have all kinds of competitions. We get a special T-shirt. And on those fateful days, the company would have extra people working. They provided incentives, extra breaks, snacks, every time a new book in the series was released. It made for an incredibly busy day, and calls would come in at a frantic pace, back to back, with no lag time in between. Basically, you're tied to your desk. Super stressful. On release day, the shipping issue really came into play, because what they would do is run a special for Harry Potter, and if you selected 1 day shipping, not free shipping, and it's actually quite expensive, but if you selected 1 day shipping, then you would receive the new book on the actual release day. If you selected any other shipping method, you had to wait the normal amount of time. So if you selected the 1 day shipping and the book was not there on the release date, then the book was, the asshole customer's favorite word, free. So I'm sure you can imagine what most of the calls we received on that day were about. So all day long, we get calls from people demanding refunds because the book was not there. And in almost every case, they had selected the free shipping option, so they didn't deserve a refund. And this is one of the few times that the company didn't really give us leeway. If they didn't select 1 day shipping, they didn't get a refund on the order. Now, this day was pretty glorious because of what was forever to be known as the "what do I do" call. I get yet another call from somebody who had not received the Harry Potter book, and of course she's mad. Of course she demands a refund. Of course she doesn't deserve one, because, of course, she selected the free shipping. Of course, the customer demands to speak to the manager. I actually breathed a sigh of relief when she demanded to speak to the manager, and I waved one of my favorites over to take the call. Now, I like the guy because he had a reputation for having our backs in situations like this. And because we were so busy, he just dialed into the call from his desk instead of coming over and taking my headset. I'm really glad he did, because I got to hear the following exchange. Thank you for calling Amazon.com. This is Barry speaking, blah, 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 blah. And the customer said, yes, I ordered the Harry Potter book, the new one. And he said, yes, ma'am. She says, don't interrupt me. I ordered the book and it's not here. Why is it not here? He said, well, I'm speaking. Let me finish. Now, if you work in a call center, especially customer service, you've probably been through this more times than you can count. But for those who have not, I'll just explain it like this. Abusive customers will call, ask you questions, scream at you for interrupting them when you try to answer them, and then scream at you for being too stupid to answer a simple question. So what followed is a 5-minute rant where the customer went on and on about how the book is not there. They are so disappointed. The book is supposed to be free. And of course, Barry explained multiple times that she chose the free shipping option in which the promotion did not apply. So she snapped at him and she's like, that type of shipping is expensive. And of course, she's massively offended. You'd have thought that Barry had told her that she was supposed to go pantsless in public or fart in church. So unthinkable was the concept of selecting one-day shipping, something that she had to pay for. So she's so demanding and so unreasonable that I can see that this guy is losing his patience a little more every time he has to repeat himself. And you can tell that the customer is one of those who is used to calling and screaming until she gets her way. And it's just not registering with her why it's not working this time. He keeps explaining to her that we can't get the book to her today because that's not how shipping works, that short of getting in his car and physically driving the book to her home, she is not getting that book today or even tomorrow or even the next day. So she's silent for a moment and then she drops this little gem. My 11-year-old son is on the floor crying and screaming because all of his friends have the new Harry Potter book and he doesn't. What do you suggest I tell him? And the guy just loses his shit. He yells into the phone, mocking her tone. I suggest that you stop harassing innocent customer service representatives and hang up this phone. Then I suggest that you grab your brat and bust his ass. Then I suggest that you tell him he's never getting his book because any kid who acts like that doesn't deserve shit. He then threw his phone receiver down on his desk and walked off the call floor, screaming, fuck this job, at the top of his lungs. The handset bounced off the wooden surface, ricocheted off the cubicle walls, and lay there helplessly. The girl at the neighboring desk swore she could hear the woman screaming through it from her desk. Now, here's where most people would say, and then everybody clapped. And he would be carried out on everybody's shoulders, given a raise, $100 worth of free merchandise, and the rest of the day off with pay. Unfortunately, the people around him went deadly silent for a beat, then continued on with their calls as if nothing happened. Most of the people didn't ever even register that an epic explosion had happened until the tale was told later by those of us who heard it. Unfortunately, he was no longer an employee of the company by the end of the day, but he did go down in our history for serving the customer a bite of her own shit. Something that I'm sure many people who have experience in this type of job all dream of doing. Now, that's just a little tiny bit of an idea of what call center work is like, and it's pretty difficult to do. There's a lot of drug use involved in the call center environment, and that's part of a small part of how my problem started. At some of the places that I worked originally, and I started out doing telemarketing, the kind of old school, do you want to sign up for any long distance carrier type of telemarketing, and graduated to bill collecting, and then went on to customer service. And at the bill collection place especially, I mean, people would just do dope like right out in the open on top of their desks. It was absolutely insane. Never seen anything like it. But at any rate, at the moment, I am staying home and looking for a new field of employment because I'm avoiding going back into that environment. Let's see, I am from a very, very small town of a population of less than 5,000. And I'm not going to say where it's from, but on my next live, I am going to do a topic that kind of goes along with my town's history. It's very famous for appearances. There's a specific appearance from like the 60s that was actually the subject of a book which was turned into a major motion picture. And just a lot of weird stuff is associated with my hometown. Actually, there is a rumor that there's a portal to hell in my town. And the way it's laid out is that the town is based on the two rivers coming together, and supposedly at the point where the two rivers meet, there's a portal to hell that you can access, I guess, if the moon is full and you say the right chant or whatever, I don't know. But they actually have a festival that's related not to the portal to hell, but to the appearances and the subject that the movie was about. They have a festival every year, and people come from all over the country for it. But besides that, there's a lot of other weirdness there as well. There was a big battle in, I think, the Revolutionary War that took place there. And supposedly the town was cursed by an Indian chief. And all the crazy things that happen in that town are kind of blamed on the Indian chief's curse. The school that I went to had, like, the school was about the size of what most people's graduating classes are. I don't remember how many people were in it, but, you know, that gives you the idea. And, like, young people have a way of just getting killed in very weird ways. By the time I graduated, I think like 7 people, maybe more, just from my graduating class had died in weird accidents and things. I'm sort of, I have a really open mind when it comes to different things. When it comes to paranormal experiences and stuff, I keep a really open mind. I had a lot of odd things happen when I lived in that town. And the funny thing is, like, I would have, for instance, like, dreams, and people that were close to me would have similar dreams. And my mom, who's super, super religious and doesn't put any kind of stock into things like ghosts or ESP or any of that stuff, actually some things happened that she couldn't even argue against. And the weird thing is that when I was 22, I moved to another town that was about an hour away, and all those weird things that happened, like, just stopped. Like the weird dreams and things like that, like, all of it stopped after I moved out of that town. So there are some oddities that, you know, even people who are really super skeptical with stuff like that can't really deny. So on my next live that I'm going to do probably on Saturday or maybe Sunday, depending on who's streaming or what's going on those days, I want to do the topic of personal experiences with paranormal stuff. So I think it's a super, super interesting topic. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people that have a lot of stuff to say. And so I'm hoping we can get more audience participation with that. And I'm going to drop a link here in just a minute for anybody who wants to call in. I want to be able to answer any questions you all might have about me. And I just don't plan on doxing myself. So don't get too personal. But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff. So, Mr. Cardinal, why do you think I'm creepy? No, all customers that are upset are not assholes. There's a big difference between asshole customers and upset customers. Hi, Respect the Egg. I am excited to see you here. Asshole customers are people who think it's okay to call and scream and yell and abuse somebody rather than act like a decent person. You can be upset and still be respectful. And in my opinion, the only reason for really popping off on somebody is if they are rude to you in the first place. Now, for example, I called in as a customer to my cable company. Oh, sorry, Dick. I'm sorry you have to go. I called into my cable company because when I had first signed up for them, and this was years ago, but it's just an example. When I signed up for my cable company, it was right when everything went digital. At the time, they had just started like the TV on demand stuff. So this was a while back. And they told me when I signed up that it would take a little while for that stuff to start working because they had just developed the technology. So I was super patient, super patient. I had it for a year, and I called in and asked about it, and they gave me the same speech about being patient. And so I waited and waited and waited, and the service would come in and it'd go out, and it'd come in and it'd go out. And so I called in again because everybody else I knew who had the service wasn't having the problems I was having. And the customer actually had the nerve to, Richard Vernon, I know who that is. They told me who they were, so don't worry. The fake dick is cool. I'll let you know who that is. I don't know if they want us to know, but I know who it is now. Anyway, the service representative that I spoke to actually said to me, "Well, it's a free feature, so I don't understand what you're complaining about." Now, if it's part of something you're paying for, it's not fucking free. So, I tried to reason with them, and about the second or third time that they said that to me, I kind of went off on them. And eventually they ended up sending a technician. I'm making this story really, really short. And the whole problem was that the wiring in my home was not compatible with the new service. It wasn't the wires that you need for digital service. It was like the old, what's the word I'm thinking of? Analog cables. So yeah, I kind of lost my shit on them and did yell and scream and kind of turn the air blue. I was a little bit of an asshole customer, but I was provoked too. So I was super polite till then. Anyway, asshole customers are people who think that it's acceptable to deal with things that go wrong by screaming and yelling instead of acting with reason and respect and dealing with things the normal way they tried. So anyway, I don't understand why that makes me creepy, Mr. Cardinal. I would appreciate if you would explain that. I don't think that's very nice. Hugga nugga. Anyway, well, Mr. Cardinal, I was talking about a particular asshole customer. I don't think that everybody who calls in is an asshole. There's a big difference. Let's see. I see Dee Dee Dugan in here. It's nice to see myself. Yeah, I know. I know who Mr. Cardinal is. I don't want to hide them just because they're a member of RDA, but there are certain members of the RDA that I definitely don't want in here. But there are also people that I know are part of the RDA that aren't disrespectful and rude either. So, Yeah, Dee Dee Dugan, I agree. And as far as I'm concerned, they can go ahead and think that I'm you. I think that's the funniest thing ever. And I'm actually kind of flattered that they would think I'm you, because I don't have the editing skills or the setup to do what you do. But I would love to be able to, I would love to have those skills. And I definitely would if I did have them. So anyway, eat shit. Love it. Can I just say how great my mods are, by the way? I know I say this a lot, but I have great mods and I love them. They're so entertaining. So anyway, just a little bit about what the type of stuff we're going to be talking about in the next stream, if everybody else is down with it and it is interesting to everybody. This is one of the things that I had happen. I lived with a roommate when I was about 21. It was my very first roommate situation. And I'll call her Jackie. She was my best friend for a long, long time. And she was one of the friendships that I actually had to end as part of my recovery because it went there. But this was back in the beginning, and the worst we ever did was drink a few beers, from time to time. But this happened a lot with people that I was close to, the dream stuff. And I'm not exactly sure what the explanation is for it. I don't know if I was somehow projecting my dreams or if I was getting other people's signals or what. But anyway, we lived in this converted garage, and we only have one bedroom. So generally we kind of had to take turns because, I had a boyfriend and she had male suitors. And so we would take turns with the bedroom, and I would sleep on the couch and she would sleep in the water bed. We had a water bed. And then the next night, I'd get to bed and she had to sleep on the couch. So this was a couch night, and we've been out to one of the clubs in our area, or, well, in our area, we only had dive bars, but we called them clubs. And anyway, I had this really, really, really vivid dream. And I dreamed that she was in our kitchen, which was when you went into our apartment, it was living room, kitchen, bedroom, just all in a straight line. And I dreamed that she was in the kitchen and I was sleeping on the couch, and I could hear her screaming for me. And all I could do was look straight ahead in my dream. I couldn't turn around. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. And it was really freaky. It was like one of those really, really vivid dreams that when you wake up, like you don't really know for sure if it really happened or not. And when I woke up, she came in shortly after and started telling me about the dream she had. And she said that she dreamed that she was in the kitchen doing dishes, and these two guys had broken in to our apartment. And the way our apartment was laid out, we had a front door that led into our living room, and we had a side door that led into our kitchen. And they'd come in and busted down the door in the kitchen. And one of the guys had gone into the living room where I was sleeping on the couch, and the other one had grabbed her and started choking her. And she said that she was screaming for me to help her, and she could see me sitting on the couch, and I was staring straight ahead and not moving or doing anything, but my eyes were open. And it still gives me goosebumps to think about because it was so freaking creepy. And she told me that story before I told her the story about the dream I had. And that's just one. Like, I had that kind of thing happen a lot. Even my super religious mama dreamed she caught me smoking when I was, this was when I was a good bit younger. And I dreamed the same night, that she caught me smoking. So that's just a little bit, just an idea of some of the stories I have. I've got a long, long list of weird, unexplainable stories, and one that's pretty uplifting as well, which I want to save for Saturday or Sunday. So I see we have some folks. We've got Lemonade in. Hi, Jamie. Angry for now. Hi, Catherine. No, Dee Dee Dugan is not Jamie. He or she is not me. I'm assuming we're all three separate people. And yeah, anyway, I can confirm that none of us are each other, or I'm not either one of them anyway. Jamie, I sent you an email earlier. If you don't care to take a look at that, it's kind of important to me. As soon as you get a chance, I'd appreciate it. It's nothing dramatic, but it is kind of important. So if anybody in here has any questions or anything they want to know, or if anybody wants to come up and panel, I dropped the link here, and you are more than welcome to call in. While I am waiting for a response, I'll give you another life story. Everybody knows about my pets. I talk about them all the time, how much I love my babies. I got my girl rubbing her face on my foot right now because she wants a treat. Everybody knows the story about how I rescued my old man. The best friend that was in the dream story I just told was the one that I rescued my kitty from. And that's just one of the reasons why we're not really friends anymore. What happened after I rescued my old fat orange kitty, though, was really kind of the beginning of the death of that friendship. And the reason why was because of another cat that I just called Mommy Cat, and that kind of stuck as her name. This family had a lot of animals, and they had everything from hedgehogs to snakes to lizards. And I mean, it was just insane. They get one right after the other, and the animals all died in some terrible way. Like the snake got loose in the house and starved to death. They had dogs that got ran over because they get mad because they pooped in the house and throw them outside and ignore them. I mean, it was horrible to watch. But what this poor kitty cat, I really wish I'd stolen her as well as my old man, because the treatment that she got still makes me upset to think about it. And this has been like, probably 15 years ago that it happened. So as I said, they went through a whole lot of pets in the time that I knew them. And I'd say they probably went through, if they went through one, they went through 20 animals in a 10-year period. And one of the many animals that went through their household was Mommy Cat. Mommy Cat came to live with Jackie and her husband when they found her by a road with her litter mate out in the country, or from the holler where I'm from. The cats were filthy. They were full of fleas. They had warbles, which are a kind of burrowing parasite that make holes in the animal's skin and hatch out, like usually in their neck. To her credit, now Jackie did take them home, cleaned them up, and took them in. The black and white tuxedo kitty went home with a friend of hers, and the little gray kitty, also known as Mommy Cat, stayed in their household. When they moved, Mommy Cat went to the new house with them, and it did seem like she had found her forever home. She got her name because she was the sweetest little mama. The way she took care of her babies seemed almost human. You know, sometimes you get those reactions from pets that almost make them seem like people. And her litters, like, she never had a big bunch of kittens. She usually only had 2 or 3 at a time. And I think she had one maybe that was 4. But she was so proud of them. Unlike most mama cats who hide their kittens, under beds or in closets or wherever. She had them right out in the open. One time she even climbed up on the couch next to me and just gave birth, like practically in my lap, and pushed them out like it was nothing. And once her babies were born, she loved the attention that they got. And when the humans came to ooh and ah over her babies, she would put her paw up under their head and kind of lift them up a little bit so you could see them better. She had this special little language that she used just for her babies, and she would talk to them constantly in this little cooing voice. Um, I've had cats all my life, and I've never seen a cat act exactly like this one did. When she bathed them, she'd talk to them the whole time, and when they wiggled, she'd hold them down, just like a human mom would do. And she was so happy just to cuddle with her babies and get pets from her humans. Now, anyone who thinks animals don't have feelings never met this girl. Because Mommy Cat was such a sweet little mommy, and Jackie and her husband refused to spay her, even though they had no interest in keeping the babies. And this is where things got upsetting. Once the babies got to an age where they started to get underfoot, as all kittens do, they would quickly get tired of them. And for the first litter or two, they rehomed the cats. Unfortunately, Jackie and her husband were really lazy, and once they got the idea to take them to the pound, they stopped putting energy into finding homes for the babies. So one day I came to visit, and Mommy Cat was visibly upset. And she was walking around the house, looking under and behind every piece of furniture, making that special cooing noise that she used for her babies. After some prodding, she finally admitted to me that she had boxed the babies up in the middle of the night and dumped them in the parking lot of a local shelter. I couldn't take that. After a few minutes of watching the mommy look for her babies, I wimped out and started crying a little bit. And she found that amusing. She was like, look at breakfast. Oh my God, she's actually crying. And she even kind of made like boohoo pouty noises at me for it. And I eventually ended up getting pissed off and leaving. This behavior was repeated several times, and I don't know exactly how many litters they dumped. Of course, one was too many, but it happened more than twice anyway. And each time Mommy Cat would search for her babies in that same heartbreaking way. And you would think that she would become suspicious of people after her babies were taken from her, but the sad thing is that she never did. She never quit trusting people, and she never tried to hide her babies or keep people away from them, which, in my opinion, made the way she was treated even worse. Because eventually, Jackie and her husband moved back to the original home they had lived in with Mommy Cat. When they moved, they left Mommy Cat behind. I was extremely upset about that because I probably would have taken her rather than have her be deserted. I at least would have fostered her and found her a home. And she somehow found her way back to the original house. I don't know how she did it because it was across town, and I'll bet you can guess what ended up happening. Yep. Eventually, they drove her to the local shelter in the middle of the night and dumped her in the parking lot in a box. So in my opinion, that's absolutely disgusting. I was absolutely furious with them that this poor, sweet girl was treated so shabbily, especially after she was so loyal to them. And it still gets to me to think about how confused and scared she must have been. And I hope that somebody adopted her. I want to believe it, but she was an older cat, and we all know how those situations usually end up. And that was not the end of that friendship, but it was close to the end of it anyway. So it's part of the reason why I get so sensitive about cats and pets and how people treat each other, and how people treat their pets. I can't have respect for somebody who would have a pet for a period of time and dump them like that. And as we discussed in my last live, I do believe that animals have souls, and I believe that they all have feelings. And I believe that if you take responsibility for the life of an animal, it's every bit as important as the responsibility that you have towards children. If you make that decision, then you're responsible for what happens to them for the rest of their life or their existence. Hi, Susan Bonds. Thanks for stopping by. Everybody, Susan Bonds has a really awesome website. She's fucking hilarious, and if you've never checked her out, you definitely should. Hi, Soul for Music, Amanda. I see some good things going on in the chat here. That's awesome. Hey, you have a cat named Mommy. That's funny. The mother of my kitty that I adopted out of the fosters, my foster fail, his mommy was also named Mommy as well. But that was just because I was trying not to get too attached. So, but I got attached anyway. So, I'm just sorry. I'm just looking at some of the comments here. Thank you, Making Lemonade. We've been having a lot of fun with the new Breakfast Club theme. And it also helps my mods from not getting crap for being my mods. Thank you, Cassie. It's really been a bummer to be down for 3 weeks. I'm so glad to be back. It feels weird, though. It almost feels like I am starting over again. I still am kind of nervous about, like, I'd gotten really, really comfortable with being on, and now I feel all nervous again like I did in the beginning. So, I think that's about all I have to say. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate you for deleting that. Like I said, I'm positive I know who's responsible for that, but I don't want to go into it here. We'll just keep the drama away. I'm kind of liking to. God, I can't talk tonight. I'm kind of liking this peaceful vibe that we've got going on, and from now on, unless there's something that really needs to be addressed, I think we're going to try to leave the drama at the door. Leave your situation at the door, as Mary J. Blige says. I'm so popular. Everybody loves me at this school. So is there anything anybody has as far as suggestions, questions, any ideas, anything they'd like to see addressed on the channel, or any questions about me? This is the time and place to do it. This particular live is going to be on my featured section, I believe. So anything you have to say or want to know, now is a good time to ask. Oh, that's good, Catherine. Truces are always nice. Like I say, you don't have to be best friends and have each other's braid each other's hair and tell secrets about boys, but it's always good to be peaceable. Why do so many people love a boiled egg for breakfast? Because it's so hard to beat. Can I just say that I kind of respect the egg. They kind of lighten up the mood in chat, I think. And when people are getting grumpy and hateful and stuff, it's nice to have somebody to bring in a little levity to the situation. Yes, let's keep this chat drama free. I am, believe it or not, actually a really, really easygoing person. It's funny because I know I've kind of come across as maybe a little bit reactive. I have always been a reactive person. I don't do well like when I'm challenged. I always feel like I have the need to respond. And my mom, actually, when I was a kid, my nickname for my parents used to be Last Word Lucy, because I could never, ever let somebody else have the last word. I always feel like I had to be the person to respond last. And I'm still kind of that way. I'm trying to learn a little bit to not fight. And the idea of putting down a grudge and nobody winning is a really hard thing to do. It's hard to lose in a fight, but I think it's even harder to decide that nobody wins and that you're just going to let it go. And I think that's a bit of a compromise. And I think that in situations like that, if nobody walks away completely happy, then that usually means that that it's a successful compromise. Yes, Cassie, I do have siblings, actually. I have two. I have a brother, younger brother, and a sister. The brother is 5 years younger, and the sister is almost 5 years older. And so I'm smack in the middle. And my brother was like, when he was 10 years old, he was almost 6 foot tall. So you can imagine what that was like. And my sister was like the school Claire Standish. So, and I was the little booky, nerdy girl who sat in the corner with her face buried in a book. I actually remember when I was a kid, I got in trouble for reading during recess because I was supposed to be playing and socializing with the other kids. So, I can play Heart and Soul on the piano, Allison. I didn't know Lucy was a natural redhead. I knew Molly was. I actually went to a screening of The Breakfast Club a couple years ago for their third. Well, I guess it's been almost 5 years ago because it was for their 30th anniversary. And Molly, Molly came to our town, and like I said, our town is tiny. Even the town I live in now, it's bigger than my hometown, but it's still kind of small. But it's a college town, and it's kind of famous as well. It had a major motion picture made about it too, come to think of it. And that was actually really cool because they filmed a lot of it here. And, it was, of course, insane because nobody in this area has ever dealt with anything like that before. Matthew McConaughey was actually staying in our town for a while, and people were just going apeshit. Like, you couldn't drive down the street and go to the gas station without having to spend an hour in traffic. It was absolutely insane. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Catherine. It's funny, I got bullied when I was a kid because I have really full lips. And I remember when I was a kid, like, I won't repeat the name that the kids called me because it's really, really rude. But I actually remember walking around like with my lips kind of folded in, like I was trying to make them look smaller. And it's funny now because that is actually my favorite feature about myself. And, the thing that I get the most compliments on and stuff. And it's funny that my absolute favorite feature now is the thing that I used to be ashamed of when I was a kid. Um, but anyway, Molly was in our town, and she oh, really, Cass? I thought Molly was natural. Huh. Anyway, she was in our town, and she did like a 2-hour Q&A with the theater students before, I think it was before the show. And then she did a really long Q&A with the audience as well. Everybody wrote stuff down, and the local news anchor read them, and then she answered them. And she was so cool. I mean, first of all, to go to a little shit splat town that nobody really knows about or heard of at the time, um, is really cool for somebody like her to come and hang out. But I also found out a lot of really interesting stuff as well. For example, John Hughes actually had a stipulation put on his estate that nobody is allowed to remake or sequel his movies. So if anybody's ever wondered why movies like Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, 16 Candles, all these movies that are just so iconic, Ferris Bueller, Weird Science, there's nobody's ever tried to remake or sequel them. And I'm so glad that he did that because, in my opinion, especially The Breakfast Club is timeless. And I know kids who are young enough to be my kid who watch that and totally get it or totally into it. I mean, they watched, I love to share things from my generation with like my nieces and people who are younger. And, we have slumber parties and stuff, and we'll watch like old 80s movies. And, some of them that I showed them, they were like, oh my God, that's so dorky. That's so cheesy. But I've never, ever had that reaction to the John Hughes movies. Um, and if you look, and I wouldn't always wonder if he did this on purpose, like, especially like Pretty in Pink, not so much. Um, Breakfast Candle, not, or Breakfast, 16 Candles, not so much. But the Breakfast Club, if you look, like their clothes, even, I mean, some of the things they said are dated, but there's not a whole lot in that movie that really dates it that much either, with the exception of like where they showed the computers and stuff. If you look, like it could almost be taking place today, and from their clothes and stuff, it definitely, that's the same kind of stuff people wear now. I especially love the boots she wore in those movies, but um, anyway, I'm a big, huge movie fan. And when I was a kid, when that movie came out in 85, I was 11. And I remember there were magazine articles and, interviews done. And people were just horrified. People were clutching their pearls over the language in that movie, especially the John Bender, have you ever been felt up speech? I remember them quoting that in Time and talking about how horrible it was and, blah, blah, blah. But I remember when I watched that, I was like, oh my gosh, I could name somebody for every character in that movie that I knew. And I felt like each of those characters there was a part of me that they represented it as well. And it's the only movie that I've ever watched that actually made me feel like that. Like when I watched it, I was just like, oh my God, they get it. They get it. They've been inside my head and they get it. Um, Especially somebody who, or for somebody who had dealt with cliques and, been bullied and picked on. I guess I was more of a Brian as a kid, but oh my gosh, I wanted to be Claire so bad. Um, yes, it was an iconic speech, the "Have you ever been felt up" thing. Um, anyway, so that's why I kind of picked that as my representation for my channel and my username. When I started on YouTube, I just wanted a username that wouldn't come back to my Facebook, or something that somebody who knew me could just look up really easily. Because at the time I was doing the Reddit thing, and I was just starting to write. And I didn't want, like, some of the stories that I had were about people I knew and who are still friends with me on Facebook. And I didn't want, like, if a YouTuber read them, I didn't want them to come across it and then flip out. So, so I chose the Breakfast Club fan because nothing else on any of my social media or anything is related to that. It's actually all a combination of my first and last name. So I chose that, and I'm so glad I did now, because for one, it does represent a lot of the things about me I think that are important, but it's also completely anonymous, and to the point where people even hired a PI to try and find out who's behind who's behind it. I wanted to do it today, but I actually fell asleep. So I think I'm actually, and I didn't get time to, like, clean myself up and fix myself up. So I'm not doing it today, but I think I may actually go on camera as myself sometime in the near future. That makes me really, really nervous, but I think I'm going to. Let's see. So anyway, thank you, Love Mammy. I've really been getting a kick out of the new channel setup, and I love it that my mods are all such good sports. So does anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Because I think I'm about ready to end the stream otherwise. You don't think so, Dee Dee Dugan? I don't know. I might not. Maybe I'll just update my picture to something a little more recent. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm out of things to talk about. My panelists didn't make it, so I will just leave you guys with these iconic words. Hang on a second. Okay, so, dear Mr. Vernon, we accept the fact that we had to sacrifice a whole Saturday in detention for whatever it was we did wrong. But we think you're crazy to make an essay to make us make an essay telling you who we think we are. You see us as you want to see us, in the simplest terms, in the most convenient definitions. But what we found out is that each of us is a brain, and an athlete, and a basket case, a princess, and a criminal. Does that answer your question? Sincerely yours, The Breakfast Club. And we'll just leave you with this. Oops. Nope. Nope, sorry. I'm playing my own live back to y'all. Here we go. Shoot. I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay. I'll leave the chat open for a minute and play a little more music for you all, a little more Simple Minds. I don't know if you all knew this, but Billy Idol was supposed to have that song and he turned it down, and Simple Minds ended up with it. Anyway, my next live is going to be on Saturday or Sunday, and it'll be more interesting and probably longer. Hopefully I'll have some panelists ready to go. And everybody had to work tonight, so I didn't have anybody who my co-panelists had to work tonight. Anyway, I'll leave you all with this, and I'll see you all in the next one. Sincerely yours,